Success.
Yay.
Success.
Hello, my name is Danielle St John. I am running for Congress in California's 49th District.
My name is Freeman Michaels, and I am in between titles right now.
And today, well, first, the overall theme today, I think, is going to be communication. But first, I wanted to do some campaign updates. So I did the last actually kind of cool thing that I did was a roundtable discussion with there were 11 of the 16 candidates at this roundtable discussion, and hosted by Danielle St John. It was kind of legit and official, but it was actually kind of interesting and a little terrifying to hear some of the responses. I hope you guys didn't sit through all. It was really hard for me to sit through all. There was some.
Was this on NPR?
This was on KOTC, but it's actually now more like streaming. They've got a YouTube.
I mean, they're coming online to the internet age.
Exactly, and especially all over San Diego. I guess in the on demand of all of the major cable blah blahs is I think it's KPBS. I think I
That
just
sounds
went to
right,
the
yeah.
I went to the KOTC Oceanside website, but I think you can also go to KPBS. But
My problem with those forums is that it's always getting a generic question and you can bloviate about just about anything, and people generally don't end up with that much more knowledge than they did before. And I think if there's candidates that stand out, and I think you did, compared to the establishment people, it's so people will get that far. But in general, it's all the candidates should be decent, pure and authentic. All of them should actually be about helping people, and instead this ends up being about who can be more well versed in bullshit.
yeah, exactly.
You always end up fast forwarding through these political events because you're they're just not going to say anything relevant.
I did.
You did.
Guys, yeah, you could fast forward. But actually,
You talked about the next war and all that stuff, so I thought that was cool.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to go into too much. I don't want to take too much time on the campaign because there's a lot probably to talk about since we've been MIA for a few weeks. But so that's one. So a little bit about that. I was asked some generic questions, but I was able to throw in some good facts that nobody else did. I learned a couple things about a few competitors that they're not really a risk anyway, and if they were a risk, I would be very afraid for the world. But I'm not going to name names. And my female counterpart on the Democrat side didn't show up for this one, so that was kind of a little bit of a letdown. I really wanted to ask. Yeah, Sarah, come on.
I got to ask her a question. It was at the Our Revolution forum thing, and I had my hand up, and she looked at me, and she's like, "Oh, hell nah!" And she went around the room. She asked everyone a question. Everyone was kind of done. I'm there. We made eye contact, and she's like, I'm I'm not gonna stump you. I thought I asked her I asked her a question that Our Revolution people would want asked.
Yeah.
And she gave a pretty good establishment answer, so I think some of them probably bought it.
Right. So, but But the forum, yeah, she wasn't there for that. But and there was a couple, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to call out Mike Levin. He was just canned establishment.
God, he's so bad. He actually says you're either with Trump or you're with California. I'm you're literally trying to divide people. I get a lot of people don't like Trump, but do we really need to be more divisive? Because there's a lot of people in your friends and family list that probably would prefer Trump over Hillary, and it's we don't need much more division. So Mike Levin's out there saying you're either with Trump or California, and I was happy I laughed at him when he said that out loud.
I also wanted to take this opportunity to, he kind of tries to paint himself as environmental for the environment attorney, but he's actually works for the corporations against the attorneys, I believe. So if I'm wrong about that, I take it back, but I don't think I am. But anyway, so he's just a kind of another corporate Democrat, and that's not. I don't know. There kind of really is in corporate Democrats. We actually just yesterday, Freeman was doing an interview with I didn't know he was a Democrat, honestly. Johnny.
Is he? Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, he did. He said he was a Democrat in your thing.
Yeah, I don't. To me, it's not even so relevant the party. It's like, is the person trying to do good, and are they being pure with what they believe? Like there's a guy, Shahid, who I met at Unrig the System. I love that guy, but I bet I disagree with him politically because he has a lot more faith in the system than I do. But that doesn't mean he's a bad guy, and doesn't mean I'm a bad guy.
Right.
And for Johnny, and I do hope Johnny wins, because it's like he's putting himself out there, and he's trying to do good for his community, and he's trying to walk the walk, and I appreciate that. But it was and so we're kind of dovetailing into the cooperative economy here, and how are things with that going? Because what that is that's we have government and we have capitalism, and then we want to have cooperative economy. So it's like government capitalism here, and we want people to start to become self-sufficient and independent on all sorts of services, and not just going to be some massive replacement. And to appreciate the gravity of why that's necessary, you have to accept reality about government and the opportunities that we have to change it, the likelihood that it's going to be successful, and we have to accept the reality about capitalism and how much capitalism is going to care about you and how much capitalism is going to care about your family.
Right.
And once you accept the reality that both of those probably aren't going to help you, other alternatives start looking much better, and you're much more motivated to do them. So we did this 7-minute video, and I think a lot of people have seen it, and people like it. But my intent was people would say, okay, now I'm going to go. We're going to go off and do this cooperative economy because capitalism and government aren't serving us.
Right.
We're going to start building this up. And it's just hard to get people to recognize that these things aren't serving you. Get them to recognize how pointless those are, or how unlikely these things are to succeed anytime soon, so that maybe we should try alternatives. And I encourage people to run for office. I encourage people to run as a Democrat if you want to try and clean up the Democrats. Chelsea Manning is running as a Democrat. I would support her.
Yeah.
But that also doesn't mean that the party doesn't have problems, and that doesn't mean that we shouldn't talk about things that may put what you are doing and the party you are supporting in a poor light, because that actually may be true. And I think politicians and people who are into politics really have a hard time hearing that people don't have faith in the system. And I think they need to hear that. And someone needs to run saying, you know what, Michael Vu may be a little questionable sometimes.
Right.
I mean, you don't really badmouth Michael Vu ever, but
I do too. Don't spread rumors. I do all the time. No, but actually, I wanted to address this kind of in the campaign updates, because my campaign got brought up into this little scuffle yesterday. And,
oh, he did, yeah.
Yeah, and so as the representative of the Danielle St John campaign,
Danielle St John.
Right. So, but here's the thing. It's like, so how do I fit into this? Like, I'm running for office, right? So, how am I going to be any different than Johnny is, right? As a Democrat,
Mm-hmm.
and the answer is that I'm not, and anybody really who thinks that they can make that kind of change just like in a snap, I really think they're giving our government way too much power,
Mm-hmm.
right? Way too much power. We cannot fix Flint, Michigan in 1 term, 2 terms, when we are fighting for incremental change.
We're fighting to even get the votes counted, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
This system is so that's it, precisely the great. First of all, we should have a banner with Michael Vu's phone number on there, because everybody, please look up San Diego Registrar. Please
Do you think
call.
do you think he Snapchats? We could just Snapchat him all
He
day.
doesn't really look like a Snapchatter. I don't know.
I don't understand Snapchat or Twitch, so
No.
whatever. I mean, if that's where Michael Vu is, then that's where he is.
I don't think that's where he is. I think that you should look up his phone number and call and say what steps are being taken to make sure that the votes are being counted correctly.
What's up, Iqbal and Ray?
Because we have 2. Oh, great. Okay, we have. Oh, is this?
That's a friend of mine. Yeah, that's not any of our other. That's not your wall or the Periscopes.
Oh,
or YouTube,
gotcha.
but my Facebook wall.
Okay. Anyway, so really, like, that's. I mean, I kind of wanted to address that. Is that so? First of all, there are many ways that we can all fight the system, and some people protest, and that's never really been my thing, is to take to the streets and protest. But I know a lot of great people who have made a lot of change doing that. Mm-hmm. There are some people who choose to fight the system through advocacy, right? And that's great, and that's usually what I do, right? Now there are other ways that people are trying to, unite the people and make change, and the cooperative economy is absolutely something that should be in the mix. It's like, I don't tell people who are protesting because, I don't choose to protest. I don't tell them that they're doing the wrong thing by taking to the streets and protesting. Mm-hmm. So the way that I want to contribute to all of this is, through the cooperative economy, through the platform of Congress, right? Through that, well, I mean, the power of a platform, really is a big thing that I think is not really in establishment's equation.
Exactly. And you could think, like, imagine if Bernie went around from community to community and instead of giving his speech, encouraged people to build up their community and gave them some how-tos and gave them some starters, and maybe even did a fundraiser while he was there for people who want to want to help out to that community. So, hey, I'm going to do a fundraiser for the community in Flint, Michigan. Bernie could do that and give all of the money to that community and say, okay, here's some tools, go to peakprosperity.com, and they're already kind of doing the cooperative economy. They started like a decade ago, and they are finding ways to grow and store food because they don't think the oil supply line is a good way to manage our food supply, and they don't really trust the FDA or Monsanto. And you can go to Peak Prosperity and try to figure out how to grow food for your community. And Bernie could start that. Tulsi Gabbard, Rand Paul, it doesn't matter. Any big name person, if they honestly, truly understood how the cooperative economy worked, they could go into communities and fundraise and get things started immediately. Absolutely. And that's what you could do. Like, if you are the first Green in Congress. I don't know if that's true or not. I think it's true. Certainly the first Green female from Carlsbad.
Yeah.
Definitely we'll go with that one.
That is first Green in Congress.
And if that gets news, I don't see why it wouldn't be. And you certainly have a new platform. That's exciting. You could go around from community to community and inspire women saying, hey, you want to take control? It's like there are options as a congressperson. I don't like the sound of that. As a congressman.
I'll say congressman. I'll take that.
As someone working for the government, as a big name person, there are options to go and move large groups of people. But your intentions have to be pure and people have to be behind you. And if you get someone in office like Danielle who can do that, the doors just open wide open. I never got that far with Johnny. I kept getting cut off and he couldn't get past the community garden part. But it's like that is a reason why you could run for office. That's why I ran for office. And my friends were saying, well, if you don't believe in legislation, what are you going to do? I was like, well, I could be a point person. I can try and motivate large groups of people. And I don't think you are the only person who's running for office this term who have pure intentions. Like I mentioned Shahid. Johnny, I will throw his name in there, even though I'm sure he hates me right now. It's all good. And his friend Bill Sombrero, Brello, I can't say his name. We follow each other on Twitter and we go back and forth. What's the guy? Tim Cox, I think, is his name. Maybe it's not Jim. Anyway, he's running as an independent, and he's also out there on Twitter. And I like people that are putting themselves out there and engaging the community and saying, this is what I believe. Mm-hmm. And even if I disagree with them some of the times, it's okay. They're out there. And so Bill Sombrero mentioned he was going back and forth, and they had some disagreements. And then at the end, like, he kind of tied it up nicely. I'm like, hey, once you get in office, are you going to continue doing this? And I kind of put him out there. It's like I challenged him, but at the same time, as a citizen, as a constituent, not a constituent, but as a citizen, that's a good thing to ask politicians. And he said, yes, I'm going to continue. And that's great. That is exactly what we need. And this guy actually is encouraging MMT. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's worth the effort because I don't think you're going to get enough power in Congress to get it through. And I also don't think it's a long-term solution because it's a top-down. We're still using someone else's currency, blah, 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 blah. We don't have to get into that. But this is a good guy. Bill's a good guy. Steve Cox, that's his name. Steve Cox is a good guy. Shahid's a good guy. It's like these people are, what's the woman who's running, teacher, Zephyr Teachout, I think. She's a good person. It's like these are good people running for office. But that's not, what do we need, 185 new seats just to get the House of Representatives? And I don't even think.
There's only 57 this time.
Congress or House goes every 2 years, so I think that one's always. But Senate, there's only I don't know how many, but it's like Senate's not going to change anytime soon. I don't even know. It's like that many people are running. I mean, we know the people running in California. We're not. Anyway, but
hold on, is there 57 seats total, like in House and Senate? That is okay. I think that I'll have to redo my numbers about that. But 57 seats total open in the 2018. Elections. They're all and so
it's probably for a geographical area, that number, or is that the Senate? That's probably just the Senate.
That's the House. That's the House. That's possible. It's the House and the Senate, I think.
Because the House does everyone. Everyone's a 2-year term.
Mm-hmm. I know, but
so all 300 plus should be up, all the time.
But people not seeking re-election.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay.
Gotcha.
So not seeking, so that makes it a whole lot easier for primaries and things like that.
Well, I didn't even care about the incumbent. I was like, I'll go after Scott Peters. I don't care.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
He smacked me down. 2 signatures short.
That's what establishment does, though. Call San Diego Registrar, please.
Hi, Julie, Tran, and Jason. So, yeah. So that was exciting. I think. And did you want to add more to that?
Well, I mean, I guess just like so. I support MMT in a little bit of a different way because Freeman's just clearly like very enthusiastic thumbs down.
No. I think if you can get it there, just like if you can get single payer or Medicare for all, or you can transfer some money to the elite and pay off student debt, I'm all in favor.
Yes.
I just don't think you can. And I don't think you should put all your eggs in that basket and run on a platform when you're kind of giving people false hope. Because like, what is the likelihood that you're going to get this done in the next 2 years? Well, pretty slow. What about 3, 4? Okay, so we're now at 3, 4, 5 years. 5 years before it gets implemented. 5 years in Flint, Michigan. That's a long time. So that's where I'm at with that solution. But in terms of the solution, it's actually a reasonable solution. I just think we need to put the horse before the cart.
Right. And to me, this is what I like about MMT, and this is what I want to support, is the idea that our money is a lie. And that's something I think that we can all,
that's huge.
The MMTers and Freeman and me, all of us, I think we can all agree on, is that there is a huge illusion that needs to be broken to the general population. And I think that there's no way we can do it if we're fighting each other and not trying to get this message out. It's going to be a huge pill for people to swallow. Think about this. Think about the fact that the person who's just about to retire and has put all of their faith and their blood, sweat, and tears and life into this system, and they're just about there, and you're going to tell them that everything that they've worked for is a lie. They didn't really need to work that hard, that they didn't really need to put their faith in this system. And that is a pill.
It's like, oh, by the way, here's your retirement, and this is the amount of stuff you can get with your retirement now. And, after this policy, stuff goes, it's like there are effects.
So this is and also when you look at it, people are very angry about money on both sides of the aisle. Yeah. It invokes the emotion that this currency invokes, really, is anger. And so it's very hard for people to talk to. It's very easy for people who agree. We all agree. This is the whole thing, is that modern monetary theory to me is that money is a sham. Money is a sham, and it's used to control the people. And until I think that we can come together on that fact, and how about, can we unify on that fact? Can I just be congressional here, congressional AF here, and just say, put all the bullshit aside, you guys, and unify on the fact that we have a huge pill that we are going to have to get people to swallow in order for us to get out of this cage. So how can we all help each other with that common goal, whether it be protesting, whether it be running for office, whether it be trying to organize, community gardens? Why are we fighting each other? We have the same goal. So that's all I got to say about that. Yeah. That's all the Danielle St John campaign has to say about that.
I think the fighting is really the central problem. If people can't talk to each other, we can't communicate. And it's like that sounds so obvious there, and everyone's always in favor of more listening and everyone's favor of understanding, but no one seems to be conscious of it when they're in a discussion where they think that they have something to teach the other person. And I think that's the biggest problem that people run into. Like if you look at the stream I did with Rocco, I think it was 5 days ago or something like that, and the stream I did, was it yesterday, with Johnny, and both of those people started off in different ways. Rocco actually said it on the stream. He was like, I'm going to learn this guy up or something like that. And Johnny posted something on, like when we agreed to do the stream, he's like, well, you better study up so you don't get run over in the first 5 minutes. I mean, it's like talking smack is great. I enjoy it. But if someone makes a point in the discussion that challenges you and you are feeling upset and you get worked up, you are not open to new ideas. Like you are literally in fight or flight mode. And when you are in fight or flight mode, you are not trusting the other person. You're not open to new things. You're in a sparring mode. You're not even trying to understand what the other person is saying. And I felt a little bad because I probably let it go on further than I needed to. But there was at one point where Johnny asked me a question, and I said, well, in order to answer that, I have to give you a new perspective. And he's like, I don't want a perspective. I want the answer now. I'm like, but Johnny, the answer might be longer than 15 seconds, and it requires a different way to look. No, that's bullshit. Just give me the answer now. People are dying. I'm like, oh, snap. I was like, so I might have even pushed a little bit further after that. But it's like if you are not intending to understand the other person's perspective, there's a very good chance that you're going to miss it. And like we were just talking about earlier today, if you look at it as an energetic exchange, what is this other being trying to tell you? And they'll step out, they'll give you this much, and then they'll see your response. And if your response is to cut them off or tell your own story or to tell them how they're wrong and here's how you're right, they're not going to tell you more of their story. You're not going to see, hey, this is how they view the world. And this is how conservatives and progressives have gotten so divided, because we view the world differently. We really do. At the very fundamental core of us, conservatives and progressives view the world differently in different situations. And if we listen to each other and say, you know what, instead of saying, you're wrong, here's how my perspective is right, say, oh my God, wow, this person moves through the world in a completely different way. I hadn't thought of that. So now when I try and suggest something, I'm going to try and solve the problem with their problem solved as well as mine. So instead of looking at everyone else's, here's the solution, look at it as, oh, what problems do they have and how can I solve them the way I also want to solve them as well as the way that works for them. And one of the big things that I think progressives miss is we don't take conservatives, what they say, seriously and literally, and we kind of laugh at them. And one of the big things that conservatives say, and it's not just conservatives, it's a lot more people now, and it's almost everyone who doesn't vote by extension, people don't think that government can and will change soon enough. And they don't think that government is efficient enough, and they think it is too corrupt in order to deal with the major issues of our time. We needed Donald freaking Trump to get peace in Korea. Okay, something is wrong with that situation. And if a progressive is communicating with a conservative and their response is, you shaming them for not supporting your social program or something like that, remember that they view government as the problem in so many situations. And for you to continue to ignore that they think that's the biggest problem long term, not just like 2 years, 3 years, 100-year plan, they're like, no, this isn't going to work. If you continue saying we need more government to suggest this because you're a bad person, you're not going to bridge the gap with that person. And this same thing doesn't apply just to politics. It's all over the place. Men don't listen to women. People with lighter skin don't listen to what it's like to people with darker skin. It's like you can go on down the list of whatever the division is. And my suggestion is when you enter a conversation, instead of assuming that you have something to teach them, and you might, try to see if you can learn a new perspective and a new way that other people move through the world. and then you will become more aware of other things, and you will become more aware of why maybe your solution isn't going to work with them. So if someone says, hey, MMT is going to save mankind, and I say, how, and how long is that going to take? That shouldn't set you, shouldn't set your what remaining hair you have on fire.
Right. And then I think he also talked about jobs, like jobs.
Oh,
right?
that's a great mental prison.
Well, right, exactly. And, embracing he even talked about embracing automation, right? So he embraced automation because he didn't want to work harder, but he's like, oh, jobs are the answer. And honestly, like, I think that he's like halfway there, but there's, I don't know, like, I think that when they say the devil's in the details, I think that, this is a good example of this MMT, that cult,
We call it a cult because when you just ask
wrong.
for some details, you guys flip out.
It's not everybody, not all of you, but just some of them.
It has nothing to do with MMT because we saw the same patterns in the primary. And it wasn't just Hillary people. Bernie people flipped out too. It's like people flip out when their worldview is challenged. Mm-hmm. And we have to stop doing that. We have to stop pretending like if we might be wrong or someone may not view the world the way we do, all of a sudden that's a reason to flip out.
Okay.
You should just...
I have some hard truth to lay on all of you.
Oh, I thought it was to me.
No, to all of you. Donald Trump is our president. And
sometimes that happens.
I know that I know, don't yell. He is. And that's really something we should sit back and look at. Donald Trump is our president. Everything that we know about politics, we don't know shit about politics. We don't know anything because Donald Trump is our president. And I think that it would do all of us a huge service if we took everything that we knew about politics in the past and threw it out the window. Because I think we can make a better country by taking everything that we know right now, all of the establishment, you need to do this, and this to take back your country. I think we need to take all of those concession-making skills and throw them out the window. And I think that what we need to do is start communicating and cooperating amongst ourselves instead of clinging to this system that we all know is broken.
And that one of the things you said that triggered me was not triggered, but
triggered, I love it.
The concession making skills. Like we need to stop making concessions because at the heart of democracy is that you're going to have a central point that's representing you, and whether or not that's a central point in a local club or it's your representative or your representative representing San Diego in Congress. It's like each one of these steps is a step removed from the actual problem being solved and them actually representing you. And that's a problem. It's like you can go on for a little while, but when you've been at war for 16 years straight, and when your access to healthcare has been taken away, and student loans are getting worse, and education's also getting worse, like run on down the line of the problems, homeless, poverty, and whatnot. It's like at some point we need to stop and say, wow, is this really what we want? And is there another alternative?
And Freeman said something really great at the end of the live stream yesterday, is that he's got a time-lapse video of one of these buildings behind us that is vacant. It's vacant. These buildings, the lights don't go on.
Yeah, it's like there's maybe 1/10. I haven't done the math, but it's like I feel like it's 1/10 of this building that I'm in now is a little more populated because it's not as expensive. But some of these in the background, it's crazy. And I got off track of the whole democracy piece, and you were saying we should stop making concessions. This is the biggest benefit of the cooperative economy because you don't have to make concessions.
Yes.
You don't have to. If you disagree, you can take all the best available practice knowledge and start your own shit. Yeah. It's like that's kind of Bitcoin. They had the fork. People disagree, they move it on. But here, there's not really property necessarily. It's like if you disagree with someone, you're like, hey, you know what? I think you should do it this way. And they're like, no, I'm going to do it my way. And you're like, okay, I can do it my way.
Exactly.
The barriers to entry are so small, at least in terms of intellectual property. Unlike today, it's like if you wanted to start your own internet or start your own cell phone service or something like that, it's like...
There's so much red tape.
There's red tape, but it's also, you have to develop so much stuff. What if we just shared what we've already developed so we don't keep having to reinvent the wheel all the time?
Exactly, yes.
And so it's this whole concession piece. Like you shouldn't have to choose between Democrat and Republican, or you shouldn't have to choose between, if you want world peace in Korea, that you have to choose Trump. You shouldn't have to make that choice.
Yeah.
And that right there demonstrates a failure of democracy, where in the club, it's the leader of the club who sets the agenda, and anyone can speak. That's great, but you can bloviate, and they don't have to vote on it. And they can have someone else bloviate right after that, or they can shame other people, or they can use their position and power. And instead of democracy, which should be about bringing ideas out, like how are we going to echo the voice of the populace in this institution, if democracy itself, at the micro level, at these club levels, all the way up to Congress, is designed, or at least the way it's done now, is designed to prevent ideas from coming up. Like if you want an idea, you need to build a coalition and you need to overthrow the person.
20 signatures.
And it's like, well, it's even that, but just like even a new idea to change something in a club or a new process in Congress, like you have to build this giant coalition. And of course, those in power are going to try and stop that coalition.
Right.
So democracy as implemented now, and any top-down hierarchy, is going to actually thwart what people want and benefit those in power. And this actually makes sense, because if you look historically, you go back, and what did government replace? That replaced monarchies and dictatorships. And why do we get rid of those? Well, the people are like, we're demanding some authority. We want some control over our lives. And so the elite's like, oh, that's cute, little people. You guys want authority. We'll give you democracy. We'll give you a voice, and we'll spread democracy around the world. But if you look at how much influence people have in a lot of these democracies, the fact that we're always at war, the fact that there's so much poverty, on and on and on, I don't need to keep repeating that, that shows how well this democracy is working. And we need to stop with this concession stuff. If you have a good idea, you should be able to do it, and the community should support you, because the world benefits when you are following your heart and doing what you want.
Absolutely. And so, so really, like, I think that's, I'm glad you brought up Korea, like North.
Yeah, you can't say North Korea, it's just Korea now.
It's just Korea. Yeah, you like this is
sort of, I guess.
Yeah,
Not
I don't know what
officially.
to call it. I honestly, like, I
say the Koreas.
The Koreas, right? But this is historic. This is huge, and I think that it should be celebrated. And I think that if Trump had any part of it, I think that should be celebrated.
How could he not?
Right, exactly.
I mean, maybe he wasn't the one that brokered peace, but something clearly happened. Mm-hmm. And for me, like, I was pissed off. And I'm probably, the tweet is still there when he started tweeting about Rocket Man. I'm like, dude.
I called it.
I was like, this guy's got nukes, and there's a military base right back there. We're going to get nuked. I don't want to get nuked. Mm-mm. Stop, And at some point, I was like, this is too crazy to be real.
Yes.
And I think what you want about Trump, I don't think
Right.
he's stupid. I think he's got a lot of, and this may sound funny, but like personal smarts or business smarts. Like, he knows when he's being screwed, and he can push back hard, and he knows how to make fun of someone and push them back. And he's a bully, but in capitalist society, bullies kind of get what they want. Mm-hmm. And I think it's naive to think that Trump didn't do anything to help this peace process.
I think I think this is more of a roundabout thing. I think this has more to do with the human trafficking aspect, honestly. I think that if you look, you can go back and find an article very easily from last year that the president of South Korea was arrested. She's not the president anymore. There's been a new election, I believe, and she was arrested and in jail currently for some kind of ritualistic child sex abuse.
These things happen in
Just
government.
a coincidence, right?
They actually do just happen in government.
They happen all the time in government, right? It's kind of like, anyway, so that just happened. So maybe, and I saw this happening too, and I think I called it out on one of these live streams, that I said, no, this is smoke and mirrors. Like, he's not gonna, he's not
It's too
that
ridiculous.
dumb. He has children here, like, it doesn't matter how dumb you think the man is, he still has an instinct to protect him and his offspring, right? There is some kind of, he's not that dumb. And I think that's what was going on behind the scenes, is that there's big, changes going on in the political world, or in the world. Like, it's the whole world. Like, Iceland too is another government that just basically collapsed and was rebuilt because of pedophilia. So I don't know. Like, you can say bad things about Trump all you want, but but today he did some good stuff. Today's the sum of some good work.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so that's where we are at with the cooperative economy and stuff. The biggest hurdle isn't getting people to understand the cooperative economy so much, even though in some interviews it is. But the biggest hurdle is getting people to accept that they don't have to look up for authority and that they need to become leaders in their community. And we've been too conditioned to say, well, if we want to make change, change goes up. And that's not always the case. And I think people need to, I mean, Kanye's going on about this, and I think there's some stuff, absolutely some truth to it, but we need to stop viewing ourselves as victims. I'm not saying don't be aware of the situation and don't try and improve the situation, but on a personal level, you can make a lot more change than you probably give yourself credit for.
Right.
And we all need to start doing that and making our communities better and then sharing how we did it. Right. And it's really as simple as that. Make your community better and share how you did it. And we recommend food, news, and health to start, but do whatever you want because it's your community and you're the one that's going to be teaching us how you did it or teaching us how not to do it.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is, as I've showed how not to run for Congress. Don't show up short. That doesn't work.
We're just we're planting seeds here in every way that we can, and we just hope that whatever seed that we plant in you, that you take into your community and you just take your passion, take your energy, and make the world better in the way that you can.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
All right. I think that's what we got.
Okay. Well, then I'm gonna try to do these a little bit more regularly. Fridays. I'm gonna try to do Fridays for these. So. But all right, talk to you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.